Product Setup. Located within the Products pull-down menu is Product Setup. Now, a product is a menu item. Basically, anything that you can order on the point of sale system applies as a product. Now, it's not only restricted to just food and beverage, there are many other different types, and we'll take a look at that shortly. The screen is broken down into 4 tabs. The first one is Product Setup, and within here we have 3 description fields. The first one, called Description, is the one that applies to the guest check. So whatever text you apply in here, you want to have actually the full name of the item or a good representation of that, because this is what the customer is going to see on their check. Printed description. This is the description that prints on the remote printer, like in the kitchen or at the bar, for example. In here you can use short forms, whatever's most appropriate for the staff reading that. Bear in mind as well that the font on this will be a little bit larger than it would be on the regular description field, so you will have fewer characters to work with. Next down we have POS Button. This is the description that shows up on the touch screen when you select this button. To the right of this, we have Use Grid Settings. With this selected, you will then inherit all of the programming that was designed within Form Designer in terms of determining how this button is going to look. If I uncheck this, then I can now program the appearance of this button based on what I have here in terms of the text color, the color of the button, applying an image, determining the font, and also setting up the alignment for the text. Pricing. There are 10 price levels that you can apply to a product. By populating the first one and then pressing the Tab key, that will then apply that same price across to all of the subsequent price levels. And you can change these at any time. Modify price. This is applied when this item, this ordering item, is used as a modifier. So just as an example, let's say you charge $2 for a salad, but if you order the steak dinner, you can add on the salad for $1. In such a case then, you would apply $2 for all the regular price levels, and then the modify price would be $1. Report category. This is where you assign this item to a report category. In this case, it's the coffee report category. In doing this, not only will all the sales for the 12-ounce coffee be reflected within that report category, but also this item will inherit all of the programming that was done within there in terms of the printing, the taxes, the modifier pages, and so on. Type of product. As you can see, there's a long list of different types of products that you can program into the system. Anything food and beverage will be one of the first two, being an ordering product or an option. Now, an option is a modifier. So for example, if I wanted to add on extra cheese or maybe hold the onions, that would be an option. But as far as the cheeseburger, the hot dog, the pizza, the steak, whatever the case, that would be an ordering product. For information on all of the other types of products, please refer to the back office manual. Underneath that, we have forced questions. Now, a forced question is a forced modifier. So when I order this coffee, for example, I may want the system to prompt me for some other selections, such as is there some special grind or flavor, or maybe a size, or how I want it prepared. That's where forced questions would kick in. Now, in this case, you are allowed up to 5 forced questions per item. But if one of the items that you select also requires its own question, then you will have 5 questions available for that. By selecting on the down arrow, you will come up with a list of all of the different questions that have been programmed into the system, and you can select from the appropriate ones. Also, we have Ask Questions at Once. If this is selected and you have multiple questions, then rather than have them show up one at a time, they will all show up together on the same screen. Course sorting. If you apply meal courses to your dining experience, then within here you can actually allocate this particular item to one of those courses. So in this case, a coffee probably wouldn't apply to it, but if it was like a soup or a salad or a steak or a chicken meal, then you can apply it to one of the different courses. And this could affect how it will print out, let's say in the kitchen, for example, or the timing of printing for that item. Option printing. If this item is an option, being a modifier, then you can apply different settings in here as well in terms of print always. So regardless of whether there's a price applied to it or not, I want this modifier to show up on the guest check. Roll up price. If it's a priced modifier, I want to take the price of this item and roll it up into the master item. So for example, if I had a hamburger with cheese, that would be two separate line items with their respective prices. But I can use roll up price, in which case then the price of the modifier, being cheese, will be rolled up into the price of the hamburger. Printing priority. This is one of the different ways that you can determine how you want things to print, let's say in the kitchen or at the bar. Within this, I can set a number within here, and the higher the number, the higher the priority. So for example, all of my beef dishes, I may want to print first, and then my chicken dishes, and then my fish entrees, and so on. If that is the case, then I can allocate each one of these items to a printing priority number. The higher the number, the higher up it will print in the kitchen. Consolidate on orders. When you're printing off in the kitchen, it may be important for the chef to be able to see, okay, here's a list of everything that's been done, but I just need a quick summary of the things I need to put on the grill. If that's the case, then you can take the grill items, for example, and you can consolidate them on the order. So what will happen is then a summary of all of these items will show up at the bottom of the remote print. And in that, they can say, for example, I need 6 steaks and 3 chickens and 4 fish. And if that is the case, then that summary will then help the chef to quickly get them on the grill, but all of the regular contents will still show up as they normally print out in the kitchen. Custom. In the event you want to override the settings that are inherited from the report category, you can select on Define Custom. In doing that, you can now program all of these different settings that were set up within report category in terms of the printing, the modifier pages, the taxes, and the schedule. All of this was dictated within report category setup, but for this specific item, I can override that and program these on a per item basis. Minimum security. I can apply a security level to the ordering of this item. So in here, let's say for example it was an expensive bottle of wine. I may not want a junior employee to be able to order that expensive bottle of wine without manager authorization. So if that is the case, I can apply a security level. Accounting code, cost accounting code, inventory accounting code. These are fields strictly for reporting purposes, and you can match this up with maybe like a GL account number, for example. Recipe. If you're applying inventory to the system, this is where you put the stock item for this given product. In here, for example, I have Colombian grind coffee and filtered water, and the quantities used for each one of them. On the Advanced tab, I have a number of fields here that allow me to do all kinds of special things. For example, time to serve. This applies to things such as print delaying. Okay, this is one of the types of things you can do within the PixelPoint system, where I want to order things and then I want to delay for maybe a couple of minutes and then have some additional things print out, like maybe my soups and salads, delay for a couple of minutes, and then have my pizza and steak print out. Reference code, UPC code. One of the things you can do within PixelPoint is apply barcoding, for example. And if you are using barcoding, you can actually assign a UPC code to this that will match that up with a corresponding barcode. Or a reference code, because you can use PLU or price lookup functionality as well. Number of items remaining on countdown. Now within this, what you can do is you can populate this with a number, and so every time one of these is ordered, then there will be a countdown within the system. And when that reaches 0, then the system will automatically flag this as sold out. Manually entered, and I have price and description. This is really good for things like open priced item, where you would want to have the system prompt you for a price and or prompt you for a description when it's ordered. Weighed item on scale. You can use this in situations where maybe you're working with some kind of weighed item, like in a deli, for example, or maybe at a salad bar. Item special. Thinking back to where you've got the billboard at the front and there's those categories in terms of the specials of the day and desserts. This is where you allocate this item to one of those groupings within the billboard. Feature code. There are a number of different feature codes that apply to this. Now, this is something that the programmer would actually do, not someone from the establishment. But within here, there are all types of different functionality that you can apply using different feature codes. Tax exempt number. This is a field for reporting purposes. So if this item is tax exempt, then you can put in some form of reference number identifying that. Label capacity. If you're doing something like label printing for maybe a catering application, for example, then you can put in the capacity on this so that, for example, if I put in a 5, that means for every 5 coffees I order, that will print on one label for a shipping box. And if I order 6 of these, then 5 will print out on one label and the 6th will print out on another label. Prep location. Again, this kind of applies to catering type applications where this particular item is going to be prepared, let's say on prep station number 1 or 2 or 3. Covers. This is where you're trying to match up how many covers or how many people this item would apply to. So for example, if this were like a salad for 2 or the buffet for 2 or a family meal or something like this, then in here for reporting purposes you can identify the number of covers or the number of people that this one item would apply to. Points awarded. This applies to members when you're using client retention programs. So for every 12-ounce coffee I order, I may get 10 points. And when I get 100 points, maybe I get a discount. Make info. Within this, you can put in information pertaining to this item, and along with it, maybe an image of the item. And all of this can be incorporated into the touch screens or customer display screens as well. Reporting product. This is for reporting purposes, so that I may have, for example, some categorization of certain coffees. Let's say all my 12-ounce beverages, for example, and I want all of them allocated to this one reporting product of 12-ounce hot beverage, for example. Then what I can do is I can change this from what it is by default, being the product itself, to some other item that would represent a grouping of products. Size up and size down. I can link this item to other items, and one of the function buttons that you can program into the system is to size up and size down. So for example, if I choose a 12-ounce coffee and I hit the size up button, it will automatically now change that over to a 16-ounce coffee. And within the programming of the 16-ounce coffee, I may have a 24-ounce coffee for the size up, and the size down will correspond to this 12-ounce coffee. So I can size up, size down without having to void and reorder the item. And finally, we have active surcharge. This is like, for example, maybe a delivery surcharge, for example. And in here, I can program in my minimum charge, whatever the dollar value for that would be, the maximum value, so regardless of how much you order, it will max out at a certain value. And then in here, I can identify what the percentage of this surcharge will be based on the net total or the final total. Now, to kind of explain this a little bit better, it's best to define within here. Assign prices A through H as a percent. So for example, 10 would equal 10%. And so based on the value of the check, be it the net total or the final total, then this will be a percentage based on what's put in the price levels of that total check. And that will determine the value of this surcharge. So that kind of gives you a very quick overview in terms of how to go about programming a product. For further information, please refer to the back office manual.